Room 404. Exhausted and desperate for rest, James pulled into the parking lot of the Hollow Inn, a rundown motel on a lonely stretch of highway. The neon sign buzzed faintly in the darkness, casting an eerie glow over the lot. As he entered the lobby, the atmosphere shifted. The air was thick, almost oppressive, and the dim light revealed worn furniture and peeling wallpaper. An elderly woman stood behind the reception desk, her face lined with age and something else. Concern, perhaps. "Looking for a room?" she asked, her voice soft yet strained. "Yes, just for the night," James replied, rubbing his temples. She hesitated, flipping through a dusty ledger. "We have room 202 and room 404 available." 404 is fine, he said, without thinking. The woman's hand paused mid-turn, and she looked up at him, her eyes shadowed with worry. "I don't recommend that room," she warned. "Strange things have happened there. People who stay in room 404, they never quite leave the same." James forced a smile, thinking it was just a spooky story meant to add to the motel's charm. "I'll be fine," he assured her. Reluctantly, she handed him the key, her hand trembling. "You've been warned." He took the key and made his way up the creaky stairs to the 4th floor. The hallway was long and narrow, lit by flickering bulbs that cast distorted shadows on the walls. The numbers on the doors were tarnished, but 404 stood out, almost glowing in the dim light. James felt a momentary hesitation, a chill running down his spine, but he shook it off and unlocked the door. The room was unremarkable: worn carpet, a small TV, and an armchair beside the window. But something felt wrong. The air was heavy, almost stifling, and an unnatural silence filled the room, as though it were holding its breath. James tossed his bag on the bed and tried to relax, but an uneasy feeling gnawed at him. He turned on the TV, only to be greeted by static. Annoyed, he switched it off and decided to take a shower, hoping to wash away the growing sense of dread. As the water ran over him, the feeling intensified. It was as if something was watching him, waiting. He finished quickly and stepped out, only to find the room darker, the shadows deeper. The mirror in the corner caught his eye. It wasn't reflecting him. Instead, it showed a swirling black void, a vortex of nightmares. James froze, staring at the mirror in disbelief. From the depths of the darkness, a figure began to take shape, a shadowy, twisted version of himself, with hollow eyes and a grotesque, twisted grin. Heart pounding, he backed away, but the reflection stepped out of the mirror, its movements jerky and unnatural. The air grew colder as the figure advanced, its grin widening, revealing rows of sharp, inhuman teeth. Panicking, James rushed to the door, but it wouldn't open. He pulled harder, desperation rising as the figure drew closer, its cold breath on his neck. He screamed, but the sound was swallowed by the oppressive silence of the room. In a last-ditch effort, James closed his eyes and yanked the door one final time. It flew open, and he stumbled into the hallway, gasping for air. He looked back at room 404, just as the door slowly creaked shut, as if something on the other side was pulling it closed. The last thing he saw was his own terrified face reflected in the brass number plate. He didn't wait to find out more. James bolted down the stairs, not stopping until he was outside, the cold night air stinging his lungs. He jumped into his car and sped away from the motel, heart racing, his mind reeling from what he had just experienced. As he drove, he glanced in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see something lurking behind him. And then he did. A shadowy figure, standing in the middle of the road, its face twisted into that same terrifying grin. James swerved to avoid it, but his car spun out of control. The world blurred around him, and everything went black. When the authorities arrived the next morning, they found James's car empty, crashed into a ditch. The only clue was the key to room 404, lying on the passenger seat, cold as ice. The Hollow Inn, it was gone, as if it had never existed, and the stretch of highway where James had driven now led to nowhere. Yet somewhere, in a place just beyond the veil of reality, room 404 waits, its door slightly ajar, ready for the next unfortunate soul to step inside.